Until recently, nobody had imagined what this trade could be. For example, when this was started in 2008. But after that, on Indian side of Kashmir, we are seeing a huge, emotional stakes going into these trades. People are hugely invested into that trade. And I have had the opportunity of meeting a lot of the members of the divided families. Like many of them, I personally know they left their good businesses elsewhere and they are trying to invest into the cross-illicit trade, just for the reason that gives them an opportunity of connecting with the relatives on the Pakistani side of Kashmir.
On the Pakistani side of Kashmir, it's been a number of militants, former militants who who had taken up the arms during the 80s and the 90s, have joined this endeavor because they see this as another way of addressing the conflict situation.
Absolutely. So cross-illicit trade has actually been able to help build constituencies of peace. For example, the last town towards the north of Kashmir Valley, Uri, is the place from where you have transit point for cross-illicit trade. That sees the minimum level of violence, minimum level of conflict, and because people do not want such things, adverse things, to come into the way of their trading, their business.
Cross-LOC trade in recent years has been almost a game changer because this is the first time that after 1948, when the conflict started, India and Pakistan have actually allowed human interaction. They've allowed people-to-people contact to actually continue and to go from strength to strength. And I think the very nature that there is this third voice being heard now indicates that there is some development of local interest in developing, longer term strategies for peace building in the region and trying to get a say into the formal peace process at some stage.
I see that before 2005 there was a whole wall between both sides of Jammu and Kashmir. People didn't have an idea of the life on the other side. I see that a huge number of people is coming forward and they do not want the diplomatic highs or lows between India and Pakistan to have any impact, and they have been actually resisting that. If you look at the situation, post this Mumbai incident in 2008, that didn't have an impact on the cross-LOC trade.
There's a lot of ownership of this initiative. And because of that ownership, these people want this process to continue. They do not want it to stop. In the hope that this will give them other opportunities for the broader resolution of the conflict.
I remember that we attended a meeting together at Colombo where this Conciliation Resources, they had brought traders and journalists, academicians and researchers from both sides of Kashmir, from Indian side and from Pakistan. That was a huge experience. That was perhaps the first, sort of meeting between most of the traders from both sides and journalists and the academicians. They didn't have the idea of potential.
Although everyone was coming with a different perspective, but this was one opportunity for them to learn what the other side had to say, to learn about the practical difficulties, or to learn about the overarching theoretical framework that can drive such efforts.
This cross-LOC trade and travel initiative, though this is an initiative of the government, but I essentially look at it as something driven by the people, and which is driven by the people from both sides of line of control, is not going to stop. It has a direction towards peace, and this initiative needs to be supported and supplemented through the civil society initiatives, and all those suspicions, those have to be removed, and the governments will have to be convinced that allowing people to meet each other, it's not going to harm anyone's interests. I've seen a lot of organizations coming from different parts of the world and contributing their bit towards building peace in Jammu and Kashmir. But my experience with Conciliation Resources has been very interesting, and it has been, a very spirited and very driven kind of, experience with them. Particularly, they are very open-ended, very open-minded. During last 2.5 years since I have been meeting them and I have been attending some of the workshops and the conferences at different places, I think they have actually been able to make some change on the ground. For example, I've been always talking about the differences between the regions. They get people from all the 5 regions. They have a sense of, geography, ethnic identities within the state of Jammu and Kashmir. They get people from all the regions. They facilitate discussion, and then after that, that is followed by some research work, followed by some discussions, followed by some publications.
The other thing that, in my opinion, Conciliation Resources brings to the table is other international connections, is their global understanding of peace. Because of the experience that they draw from different regions, they can help us learn as well. They can help us learn best practices, and because they have a good theoretical understanding with the field of peace building, of peace studies, this is something that then filters into the sort of work that they do. So you're right that they're very open-ended, and they're looking to facilitate and locally grown solutions to problems. And I think that's what sets them apart. And on top of that, since they have the ears of the right policy-making people in the international community, that allows for those voices from the grassroots to actually filter up to the top.
Perhaps that's their global experience of working in different conflict zones, that they are much more sensitive about the local sensitivities.
Right.
So they are not taking sides or allowing anyone to take any sides or any stands. They are just facilitating a kind of process, a kind of interaction between people.